CP time.
Okay, yes.
And
yes.
you know what? I don't subscribe to fucking CP time, bro.
I know.
But do you?
So I don't, in theory, I don't think that we should. I think it's unprofessional, but I personally have time blindness with my own like unique, like who I am as a person. I have a little bit of time blindness.
What does that mean?
I think it's
so
like kind of an ADD thing, I will say.
Okay.
And you know, I'll like schedule too much stuff into the time that I actually have allotted. Okay. So we're working on it. We're listening, we're learning.
Yeah, we're evolving.
Totally. But I will say, and I'm really trying, but I do tend to be like 5 to 10 minutes late for most things, but I didn't assume that I would be today. Actually, today was like a train thing that I was like,
absolutely.
Okay, if I would have,
yeah,
you know,
that's what I didn't want to say, because I didn't want you to think that it was about today, but it was just sparked up such an interesting conversation, because I kind of thought it was only a black people thing.
No, we say Indian Standard Time.
I heard.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Totally.
So I was like, is it just like European Caucasians who are on time on this globe? But then I think Japanese people are very punctual.
Yes.
Anyway, I find this kind of stuff
totally
random.
I think like there is like systemically we have tendencies in different cultures and things that we have like higher thresholds for, like you know, like my family, if they were inviting people for dinner at 7, they're like, people are coming at 8, like, come on.
You're so right. Like,
you know,
yeah, like we just have an ingrained. See, the problem with me is that I'm a black woman, but I'm very punctual.
Yeah,
but I can't, but it actually I'm leaning more towards the social norm of you can be a little late. Like, it's actually, people actually respect you not being at their door right at 8 o'clock when something's at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
But it's such a weird, I don't know what the tick in my brain does it, but it's like, I don't know if it's anxiety or what, but because I'm thinking about a thing that's happening in the future, I cannot relax until I have, you know, there's something there.
Totally. Anyway. Well, I think it's like so unique to every individual, right? Like when I was saying, it's like, I don't think me being 10 minutes late everywhere is because I'm Indian. I think it's because I have time blindness, you know, and that's like something I need to personally work on because I have ADD, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Hilarious. Anyway, I want to thank you for being my new Instagram friend.
Yes.
And answering the call for this thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm like totally trying something new here. I mean, you're a performer and a comedian, and so you put yourself out there in a lot of ways, but it's so hard and emotionally hard to just like launch out and do a thing so publicly. So I'm just really grateful for you being along for this ride.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So we're strangers to each other.
Yes, really, we are.
And now you're on my couch in my house. So I was like, maybe we just get to know each other a little bit.
Sounds great.
If that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I can even start for a second.
Great.
Okay. So I grew up in North Carolina.
Oh, whereabouts?
I grew up in Durham, North Carolina.
Oh, wow. My family lives in the Triangle
now.
Oh,
yeah? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Cool. Do you go back?
I do, yeah.
It's kind of nice.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I love it.
I was there. What was the holiday weekend? Memorial Day weekend. And I love so much the green. I love the peace. Like, I have a son who's 7 and he's just starting to play basketball. I love the basketball hoop. But I do like cities.
Yeah.
I always want to come back to this crazy town. Okay, so that was me. I always knew that I wanted to live in New York City. And I've been here like 15 years.
Oh, wow.
I run a company, but I'm also always wanted to be David Letterman.
Okay.
And I always wanted to like have a show. But so I'm like trying out a thing where I like, it's really about wanting to connect humanity and bring us all forward. So I'm more like a Oprah than a David Letterman. But I also just want to be honest and like have a lot of fun in my life. Like, I'm someone who just wants to like dick around and play and laugh. So I'm trying to try this thing out here.
That's great.
So that's what brings me and you here today.
That's
really.
awesome. I'm so glad you're embracing that. I think it can
Thanks,
be so
Pooja.
hard for us to, especially when you're someone who has like a specific identity, like at work,
Yo.
to like try to incorporate play or try to incorporate like your creative side. And I mean, we DM'd a little bit about this or we emailed about
Please.
this, but just the concept of having like a big job and what that means, and having an identity of your title at work. And I don't know about you, but I think we probably were socialized in a similar way,
Yes.
that if you wanted to have a big job or if you wanted to rise in this corporate world, that it was a binary of thinking. It's like you're a serious business person,
Yep.
or if you want to be a creative, you can be a creative, but not in this house. Like
Yeah.
not when you're like in front of the Excel sheet.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see someone who has this like identity as the president of a very successful large company who's like trying to bridge that humanity and like bring humanity into a very capitalist identity as well.
Exactly. Thank you so much. And I love that you tossed that out like when we were just chatting. I have so much to say about that. I would love to hear your journey too. It
Yeah.
has been. So I grew up in a family of doctors.
Oh, same.
And really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So then I was going to stereotype. I'm curious if it fits your stereotype. Love you, mom, dad, brothers, if you're listening, which you're probably not, but they're a particular kind of person, a lot of brain, like very logical, I'll say, very
Yeah.
sequential thinking. And I, felt a little different, I guess, like a little more, I don't even know the word. I won't even put a label on it. And so you're right. Like up until through Starface, I was trying so hard to be businesswoman, to be this. And I was always, there was always a dissociation in my body and in my mind. And coming to lead Starface was the first time I had to reconcile that. And I had all the help. I had so many coaches. The founders are great. But it was hard. I was like, okay, I need to show up at this job. And now I'm president of Starface. And then through, however, I just dropped all that, honestly. And I was
Yeah.
like, I can be Cara and be this. And a lot of people don't like it and it didn't resonate. And then that's totally fine. But even this, it's like a new skill to just show up at yourself, to be kind of embarrassed about it, but just do it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super curious your experience and who you are and all the things.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well,
Where'd you grow up?
yeah, I grew up in like very rural Kentucky, but I was born in Brooklyn, so I'm a Brooklyn girl.
Oh.
So when my parents immigrated here, my dad actually did residency in Brooklyn.
Cool.
But through kind of just like how visa and immigration stuff works here, they were given this opportunity that if they wanted to stay in the country after his residency training was up, that he would have to go practice medicine in a like medically underserved area.
Okay.
And they chose the South, and that was just like where the opportunity was available to them, and that is where they went.
Wow.
And frankly, they really loved it. They thought, I mean, I was born in early 90s Brooklyn, a place where they were a bit worried about raising children, especially for the amount of money they were making at the time.
Yep.
And they couldn't protect us in the way they probably wanted to.
Yeah.
And so they moved us to the South, and they were like, oh my gosh, we have like acres of land and we have a backyard for our children. And obviously not really thinking of what that would be like to raise children in a very like homogeneous place, where we were kind of one of very few people of color and, or, very few like non-Black people of color.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
And, but ultimately
Interesting.
yeah,
Kentucky.
yeah.
I have some family in Kentucky, but they're like in Louisville.
Yeah.
So was it like farmland?
Very rural farmland.
Cool.
Yeah, like a dry county, so very
Okay.
deep in the Bible Belt.
Okay.
Had to drive like over 30 miles to the nearest liquor store. They'd only got their liquor license like 2014, 15.
Okay.
And I remember when they were trying to make the town moist, which
never
was
heard
to
that.
be able to sell liquor in restaurants. There was like a big uprising. And I also remember this too when they were trying to ban smoking in restaurants, because I from a county where there was a lot of tobacco production
Okay,
happening
right,
and
right.
farming. And people were very against that as well. So it's so wild, like in my lifetime, that I went from that to like now we're, in 2025 and I'm living in Brooklyn and it's just so different. And I think people don't really have that context of what it's like in different parts of the country. And, yeah. So
Yes. Okay. Did you go through high school?
yeah, so I went to University of Kentucky.
Oh, cool.
And so went to a big D1 school, and
Fun.
I mentioned like I had like a very classic quintessential American experience. Like I played soccer very competitively growing up.
Oh.
I was like in homecoming, like I was in a sorority in college. Like I feel like I did the damn thing, while also being very Indian at home. And that wasn't because I was trying to sever my Indian identity at school. It's just that nobody knew what that was. So who was I going to talk about it? But
100%.
like ultimately, like my name is Pooja. It's like the most, if you're Hindu or familiar with Hinduism, it's like Puja means like to pray. It's like the word for prayer. And I speak Telugu fluently. My grandparents would come visit us for 6 months a year, every year. I would go to India very often. So I feel both, and like these identities very strongly, being a Southern person as well as being like a Telugu person.
Wow. Okay. So now you are a comedian.
Yes.
That's how you earn your living and that's how you spend your time.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, comedian. But also I will say like something we have in common is like being both business women and working in corporate. And I moved to New York because I was actually living in DC after college, working in the government and working in international development. And then when Trump 1 happened, I just like lost funding for my job. I thought I was going to be working in DC forever. I loved that. Like public service is something that was very important to me. And when Trump 1 happened, I felt like I had to, and I was quite young. I was like 24 at the time. And I felt like I had to like pivot and shift my life path. And at the time I was working actually on the public-private partnerships team at the UN, helping corporates invest their, steward their investment into UN programs. Okay. And so I always like thought maybe I would work in the CSR side at a corporation, and then come back ultimately to the nonprofit side or to the more development side and help the private sector. But when Trump 1 happened, I was like, let me, I guess, go to the private sector because that's what's happening, right? That's where I can go. Mm-hmm. So I moved to New York for a job and had a job at Disney for 6 years on their business development team. Jeez. And it was funny because like when I started that job, I did not realize like how much of like a business finance job that was going to be. Like they sort of sold it to me as like more partnerships, which I was very astute and like able to do. Mm-hmm. Girl, they should have given me an Excel test. Like it was like financial modeling and deal negotiation.
Okay.
And I was just not ready for that, but I got ready. Like I had to be ready for it. But
and were you funny in these jobs? Like were you just like, okay, I'm funny, and I'm so curious just like how you were reconciling this part of yourself that was creative and
not at all. No. I think that at work I'm very much the person that's like, let's get back to the agenda. I don't care about what you did this weekend. Like, let's get back to the agenda. This is so fascinating.
I know, and I know we're just getting to know each other, but you seem like, all right, you know what? Let's do this thing. Like, oh my God, it's so fascinating.
Yeah,
okay.
But I think that's maybe because I was trying to separate my two selves here. Because I think the comedy, like, even when I was working in DC, to like, I'll put some framing. So essentially, like, when I left Kentucky, and I would meet people. So when I first lived in DC, people hadn't met people from Kentucky really. And they would say, oh my gosh, you're from Kentucky. That's so crazy. That must have been so hard for you. That must have been this. That must have been that. But there's only white trash that lives in Kentucky. And I was like, what? Like, I'm from there, you know, like if it's only white trash, like what am I?
Totally.
You know? So I felt like, but it was wild and crazy in a way too. Like the stories that I would tell about growing up and like hunting and fishing and like having my firearm license because I went to outdoor camp. Like,
true.
People, it was like comedic inherently. And I've always been a writer. I've always really been interested in writing. And when I was in DC, I got into this habit of sending a weekly email to my friends. And it was what now would be called a Substack. And I would, do like satire writing around a date I went on or a funny interaction I had with an Uber driver.
I love this so much.
And somebody said, this is stand-up. Have you ever considered doing stand-up? And I did not know that people pursued stand-up. I thought that NBC like calls you on the phone and they're like, you're funny, like, do you want to be on SNL? Like I had no idea. So I've been a fan of comedy my whole life, but being someone who was pursuing very serious work and also was a part of a family structure and a kind of identity of being a South Asian person in this country, I felt like that was not an option available to me.
I get that, obviously.
Yeah. So I never thought that I just never thought about
it. Didn't
it.
compute. Yeah.
No. And then I went to my first open mic in DC and it went well. And
were you nervous?
I have been pretty consistently nervous about performing up until the last year.
And now you're not as much?
I'm not as much because I feel like I have done the 10,000 hours of performing, and it's all a mindset shift as well, you know?
Yeah.
And of course there are shows that feel higher stakes or tapings or this and that where it's like you really care so much about the outcome and you want to do well. But I feel like just personally I've gone through so much growth and transformation in the last 1 to 2 years that I'm like, it's just another show. Because otherwise you are going to drive yourself crazy. You know?
I was going to say, like, I mean, I know I keep weaving you around, but I am really interested in mindset shifts in general for all of us. Like, as I'm like envisioning the world that I want, it's all about how we frame and think about things. So now are you just like taking the pressure off, kind of?
Yeah, I'm just trying to remind myself that it's unsustainable to make everything can't be high stakes.
Cool.
You know, you cannot always be in fight or flight.
I'm always in fight or flight. Actually, I'm kind of working on that too. Like I'm just like almost like a neutral state.
Exactly. And being detached. Yeah, I'm trying to really be detached from the outcome of how a show goes and really check in with myself and say, okay, what was your goal for the show? Was it to try new material? Okay, that's between you and yourself, you know? Is it to, engage the audience? So then maybe there is a metric of success of how well or how engaged you feel the audience was. But I'm trying to be a bit more detached from good show, bad show, a binary of this, because otherwise I will not be able to have a long career in this, in performing.
Yeah. I feel like it's hard when I can imagine it's hard, and it's hard for me, like launching a baby podcast when there's other people's reactions involved.
Yes.
And other people's opinions. I can imagine doing that in real time. Oh my God.
Well, it's so funny you say that because when I started doing stand-up, I was doing it as like a creative outlet and was just trying it out because someone said, you write this already, why don't you just try to say it on a stage? And a big reason why I didn't want to do it or even tell people I was doing it is because I was nervous that people would think that I thought I was funny. And I was uncomfortable and felt like the cringe, I was not able to climb to the top of cringe mountain.
Yes.
And was very uncomfortable with other people's perception of me.
Yes.
And which is really, and frankly, I don't think I've really gotten over that. I think what has happened to me is that I tried stand up, it went well, and I kept doing it. And as someone who is a very success based, motivated person, I was like, well, this is going well for me. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm not saying that I haven't bombed, haven't fallen flat on my face, but it's gone well more times than it has gone badly, or than it's gone poorly. So something that I am not good at, or that I am trying to figure out, is like content creation and putting myself more in front of the camera.
Okay.
And that's something that
Is that harder, the camera versus the real life doing your stand up?
It is for me, because I feel like more people, because right now my audience, many of the people on my Instagram are people that I know personally.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm at this place where,
Same, by the way.
sure, I do know, I will go out in New York and people will be like, I just saw a show of yours, or I know you from Instagram, or you got connected to me because I did Subway takes.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of a wild experience to be exposed in that way on such a large audience, that I quite frankly had on purpose not been pursuing, because I was not really wanting to be perceived on such a grand scale. You know, because in-person connection and on the stage is so much more intimate and special and unique, and there is a lot of nuance and context that you are able to provide an audience that's live, versus, you know, putting a video out, it going viral, and it takes on a whole other life, and you're not really able to, and in some ways, I will say, like, I did last summer, when the election, like when campaign season was really ramping up, I made a video about JD Vance's wife, Usha Vance, because she is Telugu, which is what the identity that my family has, and that went extremely viral in a way where I was getting trolled and just absolutely death threats in my DMs. And that was the first 2 days of that, I had to turn my phone off because I was so scared and overwhelmed. But frankly, it was a really good lesson in that it doesn't matter what you do. If you're putting it online, it's going to take on like anything you put online has the ability to take on an identity of itself. And that identity actually has nothing to do with you.
Exactly.
That 10-second video that someone is seeing and making a like construction of who you are and thinking things about you, it's like that actually has nothing to do with you. Yes. And so that was a real primer for me in internet culture 101 and being a public persona 101, because I think we probably grew up in the same time period where.
No, I am a lot older than you, by the way. But
I know, but in the sense of like, when Facebook first came around, people were like, "Don't post photos of yourself drinking on Facebook." Don't post photos of yourself doing XYZ. College admissions officers are gonna see this,
you're totally right.
Your employer is gonna see this, and now people are posting TikTok. The CEOs themselves are trying to be thought leaders, and it's just like, okay, like we've shifted in a huge way, and I think I'm catching up to that, frankly, where I'm really trying to break down that those limitations that I've put on myself, because that's how I succeeded, was being someone who wasn't putting myself out there so much. That's why I've been so professionally successful, I think, because I was fitting a box, putting my head down, doing the work, being quiet. And then on stage, of course, that's like a whole different thing. But bridging my stage persona and online persona is something I am really working on now.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't think any comedians. So I guess I expected you maybe to be free, whatever. Like, I guess I thought comedians were just like, okay, you put it out there. That's not. Anyway, that was the stereotype that I was having. And so I'm so curious, but I do want to unpack the identity of maybe like corporate or whatever label we want to put to like creative and marrying that. I guess I'll say, like, do you find that exhausting? I think that was the only reason that forced me to just accept the criticism or accept the like some people question my ability or some people really resonate and love it, and I just like, you know what? Screw it. Like, this is so hard having like multiple personalities
Yes.
that I just don't do that anymore. And I know we'll talk about like friendships and all of this where it's just like, I am me, like I am this person talking to you as I am talking to like my team. And I'm so much freer.
Yes.
I'm still a hot mess. Like my brain still takes over and I still have all the problems.
Yeah.
But I can't pretend to be something in different spaces. It just drives me insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to your point of maybe your perception of feeling like a comedian would maybe feel more comfortable putting themselves out there. I feel like I got into it because I got into comedy because I wanted to share my writing, and going to an open mic and sharing my writing was the most democratic, free way that I could share it. I didn't have to wait to get an agent or a manager. I didn't have to wait for an exec to green light my TV show or my pilot idea. It's my way of just pushing my creativity out there. And when I moved to New York, I had this 9-to-5 job, this very corporate job. And I didn't have a community here of friends because nobody from my college moved here or anything like that. I mean, I had people I knew from along the way of internships or summer camps I'd went to, but I didn't have like a core group of friends. And I started going to open mics, and that first open mic I went to, I met my core group of friends who I have now, who are still comedians, who are actually working comedians, Emmy nominated, very successful people who, 7-8 years ago, we all met that night, and we were like, you're good. Let's all try to stay in this and keep doing it.
Beautiful.
So that's sort of how my journey has gone. And at the time, I will say that COVID is what really pushed comedians to go online.
Okay, right.
Because previously it was very faux pas to put your stand-up online. It was also kind of cringe to be doing, unless you were like a character actor or doing sketches or something. It was like, no, I'm a stand-up. I do it on the stage and I do it live, and that's what you do. So I think I'm unlearning my own kind of societal constraints that I have, but also just even like the identity of art and my art and how I practice my art. So in my 6 years of working at Disney, truly a handful of people knew that I did comedy, because it was the type of work environment where it was not celebrated to bring your full self to work, right? Like, it was a very corporate environment. We were there to get the job done, which I respected, actually. I was like, I don't need to talk to these people about my personal 100%. Life or anything. It's a very high stakes job. Let's do it. But it was exhausting. By the end of the 6 years, I was living a complete Hannah Montana life. The night that my show, Kutti Gang, that I host with my friend Zubi Ahmed, we had this incredible opportunity to headline Caroline's on Broadway.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the night that we were doing a intense deal negotiation with a streamer. And my boss called me. I can't even exaggerate this, 15 minutes before I was going on stage, being like, hey, so did you send the turn of the agreement for them? And I was like, and I did do that.
Sweet, okay.
But he was just wanting to check in on what the status is for the deal. And I'm like, you can hear applause in the background because the opener is on. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. I did it. And I'm putting my phone away. They had no idea that was what was going on in my life.
Oh my gosh.
So it became exhausting. And then by the time I ended up getting laid off, that's why I left. I was someone who, by the time I got laid off, I was really ready to stop. To stop living this Hannah Montana dual identity, because it was ruining my health and my mental health. And I was completely masking at work, and then having sort of a hard time on-ramping back to being creative, which I was performing so much at that time period. Wow. It was really hard to manage. And now I will say I still do. I have a consulting practice where I do business development and partnerships for some brands. Cool. And a lot of those people have actually found me from my comedy, asked me to do content for them, and then me pitching myself back to them to say, well, I actually think that you're like leaving this like line of business on the table. Would you hire me to be your consultant? Like, I would love to work with you on the business side. And it's really freeing to show up as my full self now. And I'm so grateful for this like new chapter and iteration of myself. And I'm so glad, like, it's really refreshing to see you as a leader who is modeling that, because I think the reason I showed up the way I did in my previous jobs is because the leadership was modeling a very specific way of what was appropriate of how to be at work. And I get that when you're at a company, you do need to match the culture in order to, maybe I'm being self-limiting here, but I think it is easier to fall in line a bit with the culture. And I think that's why it's important to go to a place that has the culture that you need.
Period. I'm open about my time at Google, where I spent a lot of time, where I wasn't super senior. I wasn't rising and getting promotions all the time. And I was really frustrated by that. But the feedback I was getting and the bosses that were trying to help me, were asking me to show up in ways that were not quite me. And I'm not all about like, you got to be authentic and like you can't, adhere to any norms. Like it's fine to do that. But I just couldn't do it in a way that matched the Google culture in a way that was like getting me the Google accolades, I guess. And it wasn't until I left and until I found a culture, founders, people, an environment that I could build, that I could shape, that was okay, where I have thrived and become the leader that like now all of a sudden people are recognizing me for, which I'm really, really grateful. Yeah. But it was only kind of within this couple of years where I have like that synergy has happened. And now I never want to let it go, frankly.
Yeah. And what a blessing, because I think that people, I mean, not even to say women of color, of course, I think we are maybe the people who experience this the most in workplaces where we're having to mask. Yeah. But like, I think just people in general who might not be in the right company culture, they could see that. I think the lesson that you can take away from that is that you are bad. You are not a worker. You are not a productive person. Like you are not set up for success. Absolutely. And it's not until you find the environment that works for you that you can like really blossom and thrive. Yeah. And I'm feeling that as well, because I thought it's interesting when I left Disney. I thought that I would never go back to corporate America. I thought I would like only be doing creative projects for the rest of my life. And what ended up becoming apparent to me was that I'm actually really good at business development and partnerships and business, you know, like I love an Excel spreadsheet. And when it comes to, but like, I also need, in order for me to be successful at it, it needs to be with companies and in environments where I am feeling like I can bring my full self there. So this has been like a whole new chapter for me. And I'm trying to own that identity of like, yeah, I'm a creative, but it's like I actually bring a lot of creativity to my business. Period. And like, absolutely, that's it takes expansive thinking to build good business, and it takes feminist business practices to build good business. Absolutely. Yeah. Drop the mic on that. I love that. And I think it's really, really important. Again, like my goal is XYZ. And I think it's until people find environments that match, you know, we're all going to be hiding and like hiding from our shame, hiding from this, when it's really just about a match most of the damn time. Yeah. Even in relationships and friendship. I'm just now meeting people on the internet, and it's thrilling, actually. Yeah. Because, okay, so I'm a mom of 2 kids. I have never been one to have, like, I've never was in a sorority. I don't have like a massive group of
friends. I have a lot of disparate friends, and I'm getting more and more, which I'm so grateful for. But I'm like always low key looking for friends and looking for new relationships. Even though I laugh because I was talking to my friend who came today on the podcast, I'm not great about keeping up in terms of text message, DM, email, respond. Like I find that super overwhelming. So while I love meeting new people, I'm mostly an introvert. So it's like I have this weird swirl of all of these things, but I'm putting myself out there more because I just think that this stuff is so interesting, learning and talking to people.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of friends, and like, are you super social?
I'm very social and extroverted, but I will say I think my philosophy on it is what allows me to have a lot of loose ties, acquaintances, strong ties. So this is also a thing too. Like,
Please.
I think growing up in a place where there weren't a lot of people like me, it made me have to be resourceful and put myself out there when I did meet someone that was like me and that I wanted to be friends with. There was no time to be precious or to be embarrassed because I was like, I'm coming across this person, at a summer camp or meeting them online. I mean, a very quick story is that in 2008, this girl named Pooja Reddy added me on Facebook. Okay. And she messages me on Facebook and says, I'm adding you because I just typed in Pooja Reddy. I wanted to see who the other Pooja Reddys were on Facebook at the time. And we both graduate high school the same year. We're the same exact age, but you are in rural Kentucky. I'm in Seattle. She grew up in Seattle. And so let's be friends. And she told me that she sent that message to all the Pooja Reddys she found. And I was the only person that wrote back to her.
Oh, wow.
And we created this online friendship that became so deep and then about 10 years ago, we ended up meeting in person around 2018 because I had moved to New York. She was visiting New York. And now she's one of my closest friends.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, I love that so much.
Yeah, but I'm when I think back at what was my motivation for trying to saying yes and to accepting her bid for connection, it was because I did not know many people who could relate to me in that way. And maybe we didn't relate to each other in the sense of the environments we grew up in, geographically, but we were both artistic, girls who had similar music tastes. She would be going to a concert in Seattle that I would be driving to Nashville to see in the same tour. It was really wild how we had a lot of similarities. Oh my gosh. So I think because, like I said, it was so few and far between that I would come across people that I could meet. I got really good at pitching and trying to have partnership in that way. I
feel that too. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think also being from the South, there is this inherent intimacy that I learned there where people are very comfortable. And I think bodily autonomy and personal space is very important, but I'm very comfortable with walking down the street if someone's saying how are you, sweetheart, or looking beautiful today, and I'm gonna be thank you, because it's just whatever, sure. That's my neighbor, okay.
I love that.
I think I have an openness to me because of the South. And then I think it's just a familial thing. My mom really modeled to me the concept of loose ties and how to keep in touch with people in a way where someone can stay in your life for 25 years. You might only talk to them one time a year on the phone, or you might see them at one wedding a year. And it's not that deep that you're not keeping in touch, Those loose ties were a necessity to her because they had arrived in America, and then they would hear, we have a second cousin living in Michigan, call them. And someone she never met before. And then that became someone that she would just keep up with every now and then. And I'd be like, who are you? My mom was always on the phone. And I'd be like, who are you on the phone with? She was like, your second cousin from Michigan. And I was like, okay, I don't know who the hell that is, but all right. Yeah. And now my friends will be like, who are you meeting up with for coffee? And I'm like, my fifth cousin from Tallahassee, I don't know. Or my friend's friend that I went to a summer camp with, who
I love this.
That someone said you guys might get along. So I don't know. I think I'm
Wow.
just like open to that, but I have a very core set of friends who have known me. I have a very core set of friends from high school, a very core set of friends from college, from each part of my life, and I try to do a good job of integrating them. But sometimes they are just like individual, deep relationships.
Yeah.
But I am someone who you catch me in my DMs like. If we've DM'd, if we follow each other or something, it's like, I'm just like, we're family, whatever. You can ask me for anything. Like, I'll ask you for anything.
Yeah,
like, it's
exactly.
okay. Like,
Oh my God, I love the idea of a loose tie. I don't think I had that. That's something I'm now learning too, frankly. Like, it's not that serious if you're not talking all the time. Like, there's something nice about like picking it back up where you left off and all of that. Oh my God, I love this. Okay. So my deepest fear for dystopian AI world
Okay.
is that we retreat into ourselves, we retreat into our tribes, we retreat into all of these like safe, isolating groups, and we just talk to AI about whatever. And I'm thinking about this has me, the way my brain works, reflecting on like ancient ideas and constructs and religions and spirituality and all of these things that have been around thousands of years that we're either calling woo woo or we like hate each other over or whatever. And I'm just kind of curious, did you have a religious or spiritual background, and like how does any of that mean anything to you in modern times?
Religion and spirituality are things that I will go back to when I am feeling
Same.
existential
Yeah.
or particularly down.
Yep.
And I think because for me, it's kind of the routines that were built around
See,
religion.
Yeah.
And so for some people, that's like gathering and every Sunday for church or Wednesday for youth group or something. For me, being Hindu, my mom was very good at practicing kind of like the rituals around it and building these rituals into our day-to-day life. And as a child, I wasn't necessarily like enthusiastically going about them and following along with them because I wanted to or because I was making meaning out of it. As an adult, when I'm feeling like off balance and decentered, it's something I rage to a lot. And just something.
What do those look like?
Yeah, so I would say like on Saturday mornings, my mom would always play a very specific prayer, and she would do the puja, do the prayer, but she would play the track of the song, and it would, it's like very like loud and
Oh, that's not what I was envisioning.
well, it's like my mom would blast it through the house, and it was like Sanskrit and it would be like religious like instruments and music, and it's like it's very loud. And I remember being a teenager being like, Mom, turn that off. It's 10 a.m. I'm trying to sleep in. And she would be like, do not say that about, godly things. And now I was like, recently I was crashing out on a Saturday morning and I was going for a walk and I played the track.
See?
And
crazy.
I was brought back to feeling centered, and it was really lovely. And I think for me too, like, cause Hinduism is, and how I practice it, because we grew up 90 miles from the nearest Hindu temple.
Okay.
So it wasn't something that we were driving to every week, but my mom did have kind of like a prayer room in our home, and she had specific days of the week where she was performing these prayers. I'm at the point in my life where I'm trying to figure out how am I incorporating religion and tradition into my adulthood, and how am I wanting to pass that on to my kids and my community, my partnership, what are the values of this that I want to keep, and what are the things that I don't really resonate with, right? Like, I think that's totally valid as well. And so it is wild to be like, oh, we're the adults now.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Like, what are we going to carry down?
Yeah. So something that I have really been incorporating in my life and every year since living in New York is celebrating the Telugu New Year, which is kind of typically like January, February timeframe. Okay. And the Telugu New Year is called Ugadi. And something you do during that time period is drink Ugadi Pachadi. And it is has 6 ingredients, and it's okay, I'm just going to read this off so I
Please.
don't mess it up, but it's okay. So it has sweet, sour, salty, pungent, spicy, and bitter.
Okay.
And so those are things that you're putting like raw mango, black pepper,
Okay.
jaggery, coconut, salt. And the purpose of it is to prime you for a year that could have happiness, anger, like sad. Yeah. Okay. Happiness, sadness, anger, disgust, fear, and surprise.
Oh, I love that.
And I love that. Yeah. Because that is life.
Yo. Oh, yeah. And okay, I find, what's it called?
So pachadi is kind of the drink of it, but it's like ugadi pachadi. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that so much. It's like about these rituals, it's about these practices, and it is like something about like a whole life point of view. Like all of these things will happen. And also music. Like you're so right. Like music just, or for me at least, it grounds me.
Yeah. Do you have religion in your life? Did you grow up with it? And yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up as a Presbyterian Christian who like it's not very like regimented as far as we were practicing. And we were mostly like the go to church on holidays, if I'm totally honest, people. And I liked that. Actually, I don't know if I liked it or not. I think there was something about the Sunday morning routine, meditation. I loved the music and the songs.
Beautiful.
I loved all of that. But I would have had some healthy skepticism as a kid, even, for sure. But so I don't think I've brought a lot of that into my adulthood. I married a very Christian man who like grew up in a family of ministers.
Oh, wow.
And so that was something we kind of had to reconcile / still have to figure out. But I think I'm missing maybe that Sunday morning, like here's an hour where we're deeply connected to something else. Like I think that I'm missing in my family right now. Music for me is always something that grounds me, not like gospel or Christian music necessarily, but like Cleo Soul, who is very Christian and very gospel, but like she's just singing from her damn soul, and like you can feel that. So that music helps me a lot. And I do believe in a higher power or a universe or a God or something for sure. I don't think it looks like, anything that I was formally taught necessarily.
Yeah.
But I do really want to stay connected to not what's happening on the day to day all the time, not what's happening to like the physical and this. Like I definitely want to always, like talking about tradition and practices, I do always talk about there's things that are happening that are unseen. Like something about that is something that I'm really is important to me.
Yeah, I love that. And I grew up going to church a lot because I grew up in such a Baptist town and such a Christian town. And even though I went to public school, like our school choir would sing Christian music during holidays and other things. And a lot of the socializing in my town was centered around church and going to youth. If I did not go to youth group or vacation Bible school with my friends, I would not be seeing my friends.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I agree. I think, and it's like, so I am like quite moved by people who are religious in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's like beautiful because they are connecting to something that is just deeper, and they're seeing the unseen, and they're believing in the unseen, which is quite beautiful.
It is, and I feel like we're kind of villainizing. Like we went through an era, I feel like, of like, oh my God, you're religious, or like, oh my God, you're going to church, and I slowly feel like we're coming back to being like, no, I need something.
Totally.
So I'm also just trying to normalize that, and less about the exact teachings within a script, but just like, no guys, let's get back to like, believing that there's more going on, because you have to believe that we're spinning around on a rock. Like, come on. Absolutely. Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I think you have like this incredible opportunity, and we all do, to reclaim parts of how we were brought up, or reclaim religions, or reclaim things and make it our own. So
100%.
I love that you're doing that.
I love that, which I feel like is our theme for our chat.
Yeah.
I love that. Pooja, this has been really lovely. Thank you so much for agreeing as a stranger on the internet to come to my house and talk about such intimate, deep stuff. I'm like internally grateful, like for real. And I'm forever your person on and off the internet. I'm also kind of like you. Like once there's a connection, like I'm here for all of the things. So
Yeah. Oh, thank you. It's so great to meet you
nice
as
to meet you
well.
too.